taking a few moments out to listen to me. My name's John Wisniewski. I've been a member of the New Jersey General Assembly for 21 years, and this year I'm running for governor of the state of New Jersey. And I wanted to be here today to talk to you about my vision of the state. The next governor has got to be somebody who protects New Jersey citizens. We talk about sanctuary cities. New Jersey needs to be a sanctuary state, where the policy of our Attorney General, the policy of our Supreme Court, is to protect our citizens, to lift up our citizens, make sure they get educated, make sure they have health care, make sure they have housing, and stand against any of these mandates that may come from Washington, D.C. That's why I'm running for governor. There's a distinct difference between me and my principal opponent. Elections are about choices. They're about who you vote for, but the choice is also about where do we want to go as a state. I'm running because I believe I can make New Jersey a better place. I appreciate the time that you've given me today, and I would like to answer any questions that you may have if that's what you'd like to do.
We really appreciate you taking the initiative to come in and address us today, because we understand the many issues that our community faces and the fact that we need clear representation and choice, which is what you referred to regarding what's been happening in our political systems lately. Given that word choice, what I wanted to ask you is I wanted to get right to the bottom line first.
Sure.
And I wanted to ask you, given the current momentum of the Democratic Party to predetermine a nominee, what is your roadmap to victory?
That's a great question. New Jersey's gubernatorial primary has almost always been uncontested. Last one we had was 1997. And most people even barely remember that and what happened in that. And the one before that was in the 70s. One of the reasons why they're frequently uncontested is for exactly what's been happening up until this point in the campaign. Party leaders get together, they make choices, and then they say to would-be candidates, you don't want to challenge this, you don't want to get in the way of this steamroller. But here's what I do know, and here's the path to victory. I have not spent any significant money in advertising. I started the campaign on November 15th. We've raised $250,000 since then. We are getting very close to qualifying for matching funds. But I, unlike my opponent, have virtually spent nothing. There was an Eagleton poll that came out about a week ago. It was in the field at the end of the year. My opponent's name ID is 37%. My name ID is 34%. My opponent spent $10 million to be 3 points ahead of me. And the reason that's important is that the people of the state of New Jersey understand what's at stake. They understand a manufactured candidacy. Other than $10 million, other than party leadership, there's no substance behind my opponent because he has no experience in government. As a matter of fact, the one principal role he had in government was to author a pension and benefits task force report under former Governor Cody, and that recommendation in that report was increase the retirement age, reduce benefits, and increase contributions, and sell assets. The very next governor who took office, John Corzine, said, you know what, sell assets? Good idea. Let's try and sell the Turnpike and Parkway. The path to victory is this. There are 10 counties that have conventions. Rank and file get to choose. We're going to be very competitive there. We're going to have $6.4 million to spend because New Jersey has a great system. Oddly enough, to reduce the influence of big money in politics, we have a public finance system for gubernatorial candidates. I raised $2 million. I have $6.4 million to spend. I have the name ID statewide. I have the resume. I will have the money. This will be a very competitive fight, and we will win this fight because the people of New Jersey understand where we've been. We've had outsiders come in. We've tried that. Goldman Sachs Group before. It hasn't worked. That's my path to victory.
As governor, how would you help to move the legislature, being part of it, to at least provide a license? I'm not talking about criminals, I'm talking about hard-working people who've been here 5, 10, 15 years. To at least have a license.
As governor, I get to say a lot to the legislature. There's a couple of things that I would do on day one. Day one, it would be an executive order on a minimum wage for state employees, and I would tell the legislature, send me a bill on the minimum wage. I would say to the legislature, send me a bill on driver's licenses. And people say, well, this is going to take time. We've all seen the kind of shenanigans that go on in Trenton, where there's a bill they want done, it's introduced on Monday, and it's voted on Thursday. So don't tell me it can't be done. It can be. And one of the good things about having John Wisniewski as governor, having sat in the legislature, I know exactly how it works. And so I'm going to say to the Speaker and the Senate President, send me this bill, send it to me next week, I want it on my desk, and I'll sign it, and we'll put it to effect immediately. In all of the principal cabinet offices, we have to make sure that we have Black, Latino, every ethnic group, every division of New Jersey represented within my administration. And it's not just on cabinet level, but it's on the subsidiary offices, because you and I both know that most of the real work of government doesn't get done at the cabinet level. It actually gets done at those positions just under it. And I want to make sure we have a competent, diverse workforce doing that for me. I think that contrasts with the top-down management style we've seen. I mean, there's not a person hired to sweep the floor at New Jersey Transit that's not personally signed off on by the governor. I think that's absolutely crazy. I want to make sure that whoever my Commissioner of Transportation is, or Community Affairs, first of all, understands my mandate, diversity and competence. And I want to make sure that, we've seen people get appointed to New Jersey Transit who are press people who now wind up running infrastructure. I mean, that kind of nonsense has got to stop. We need to make sure that we have a diverse, competent workforce, and under my administration, it's exactly what we're going to have. I've said that when I'm appointing commissioners for my cabinet, I want input from everybody. I want input from this organization to make sure that I'm hitting your expectations on diversity. I want input on subject area experts to make sure that I'm hitting the mark on competency. I want input because I'm not going to succeed as governor if I don't have the best people and I don't have the support of all of our constituencies across the state.
If you become governor, what would be your stance in terms of helping the Latino community and minority communities to achieve that benchmark of representation commensurate with their population and contribution to the state?
Well, the first thing I would do is make sure we change the law on the Legislative Apportionment Committee, because right now there is no specific requirement for diversity in the membership. There's an expectation, there's perhaps a political reality, but there's no requirement. And so that statute has to be changed, and that can be done statutorily, and I would sign it as governor. Let's also talk about legislative apportionment. I chaired the Democratic team for legislative apportionment. We had to fight Republicans who proposed maps, and at the end of it, Alan Rosenthal, the tiebreaker, said it was a close call between the Republican maps and the Democratic maps. Republican maps would have devastated minority representation because they wanted to change the alignment away from current minority-majority districts we have and actually wanted to dilute it. And so you would have had more districts with a large percentage of minorities, but you would have had those greater number of districts with fewer critical mass able to elect. But I will tell you what I did. And I did it because it was the right thing to do, but I also wound up getting a couple of scars for it. There was a proposal in my district to change my legislative district, to connect New Brunswick and Perth Amboy, which would have created a district that would have had a much stronger Latino representation, right? I put that map forward. Everybody killed me for it, because it would have changed the senators in the districts. And, God forbid we change senators and not increase our minority representation. That map got killed. We had another map we tried to do that had a district that went from Millville and Vineland out to Atlantic City. Dr. Rosenthal nixed that map. We would have had 2 additional districts that would have had a greater possibility. I mean, you can never absolutely guarantee how a district will be represented, but you can always tee up the opportunity by creating that greater critical mass. In my experience, what matters in elections is not what people tell you they'll do. It's about looking at what people have done. I put myself at risk with my colleagues and said, okay, let's try this. Didn't work, but I tried it. We also tried the one in Atlantic City. Dr. Rosenthal said, I won't support that map. And that's the kind of leadership I've provided, and that's the kind of leadership I'll provide going forward. But the key element is changing the makeup of the Apportionment Commission to make sure that it represents the faces of New Jersey.